Hey folks, let me show you this Dynamat floor in this classic car for a second. What you're seeing here is a typical example of your typical restoration at a body shop in America. This is what you will find 99% of the time when you buy a car used that has been, quote, restored with Dynamat flooring on the floor. Chances are, within 5 months, you're going to be ripping up the entire floor by melting it with a torch and breaking your back. Just like I had to do all week. Check it out. All week. And now I got to sandblast this entire floor. Because 95% of the shops out there who put down Dynamat do it completely incorrectly. And this is why I'm not a fan of Dynamat. Because it's so temperamental. The problem with body shops is 99% of the body shops out there, when you walk into a body shop, right? Okay? When you walk into a body shop and you ask them, can you take out my interior and sandblast my interior and repaint my interior and my interior roof and everything? Chances are 99% are not going to do that. They're going to laugh you in your face because they want to make money and get you the hell out of their body shop. So what do? They stick Dynamat over rust and send you on your way, and it looks like a proper repair. And why do they do this? Because Dynamat says on their website that you can put Dynamat over bare metal. Well, I'm here to tell you that's one of the biggest myths, the biggest misconceptions about Dynamat out there. People use it as SEM rust trap, POR 15. That's not what it is. If you put it over bare metal, this is what's going to happen down the road. It's going to start to rust out. And thank God I did this early on to catch this rust so I can sandblast it and do it the right way. The proper way to put down Dynamat flooring. And I don't even know why you're using Dynamat flooring anymore because spray-on liner is so much easier to put on. This is the 21st century. This is old school. But let's say you want to use Dynamat for some reason, and you put it down. Well, the only proper way to do it is to sandblast your entire floor because any rust that may be on the metal, when you put Dynamat over it, it's going to continue to rust. Any rust that's on there is going to continue to get worse. And the only way to completely remove rust, folks, is to sandblast it. That's the only way. And what do you do when you sandblast it? You have to epoxy prime it and then seal it. And then you can put Dynamat over it. But don't think that you're just going to put Dynamat over bare metal that's 50 years old, 50 plus years old, and it's not going to rust out in 5 years. I just don't understand the mentality. That's what happens every single time when you buy a classic car on the market, like this one right here. And what happens is that they rust out, right? Because the owner pays a body shop like 10 grand to put down a Dynamat floor. They overcharge you to put this flooring down when you could do it yourself, and you think it's going to be a great job. And then in 5 years, it rusts out. And then you're like, what the heck? So then you want to get your money back, and you sell it to an unsuspecting buyer. And then that buyer, like me, buys it and then realizes that it's a rusty piece of shit because this guy did it incorrectly. Now, in the case of this Mercedes right here, I actually paid a body shop to put in a new floor that I found from a parts car. And this floor right here is actually rust-free. I had this guy welded in, and I took out the old bed liner. I worked years on this car. So this is completely rust-free. But this guy put Dynamat down on the body shop floor without sealing the metal before he put it down. So I said, and I knew he did it, and I realized this a year after he did it. So I said to myself, one of these summers, I'm going to take off the Dynamat floor. So that's what I did. That's what I'm doing right now. Dry ice does not work. I tried dry ice. Unless you buy $800, like 500 pounds of dry ice, it's not going to work. Just use a torch, take off the metal, and then I'm going to sandblast this whole floor so all of it will get off with a handheld sandblaster. That's the easiest way to do it. You don't need to use dry ice. Dry ice is ridiculous. Just take, you can melt off the this piece, like the metal, which I did over here, and then you just sandblast the rest and it will come off easily. But this car right here has a new floor and it has a new trunk. It is completely new. There is not a speck of rust on this. Let me show you. Now I'm going to sandblast this whole entire floor, get it back to bare metal, and then I'm going to epoxy prime the whole floor, seal it. Because as you can see, if you leave it like this right here, this guy at the body shop left this and it's starting to rust. And you can see all around here, it's all starting to rust because when you leave it like this, that's what happens. But luckily, I'm going to catch this car and fix it before it's too late. The entire car has already been repainted. The door is off of it because I need a new door. I had an accident with the door. And I wanted an older style door anyways. But this is a Mercedes 240D diesel, completely worthless. And I know why, because nobody wants to work on them. They're such a pain, but they're beautiful cars. I really like the looks of them. And then this car is the Cadillac Elante. The Elante, which is another project because I burned through the fender, buffing it, which is a long story because I did it in the dark. But I'm just going to re-clear coat this fender. And this is also a beautiful car because this is one of only 14 ever made in the year 1991. It is a black hardtop with a, well, it's not a hardtop. It's a black soft top with a maroon interior. It does have the hardtop, but in 1991, Cadillac did not make a hardtop with a maroon interior. This was bought separately so they could have the hardtop on it. But yes, it's only one of 14 made. So I've got a lot of projects, but I just wanted to show you guys this Dynamat floor. So that's just a rule of thumb, that if you see Dynamat on a car that has not been fully restored, I mean, if it's like a $30,000 restoration and you know they did it right, then you have nothing to worry about. But if it's some car that's been sitting in a garage for 25 years and you see Dynamat floor on it, chances are there's rust underneath. I would just run the hell away. Because you don't want to keep Dynamat that's been sitting there for 30 years on a car that you don't know the history of. Because you want a floor that you know was epoxy primed. You want a floor that you know was sandblasted. Because we're talking 50-year-old cars. And that's what happens with these cars. Is that when they're this old, you want to know the history of them. And if you have a Dynamat floor concealing all of the shady repairs that are probably underneath it, then you don't want it. So that's just why I'm not a fan of Dynamat. Because Dynamat on their website does not tell people that they need to sandblast their floors and that they need to seal their floors before they put it down. They say it can be applied over bare metal. So people say, oh, it can be applied over bare metal, so I'm going to put it over 50-year-old bare metal and expect it not to rust out in 10 years. Dude, okay, if you're spending 30 grand on a restoration and you're putting Dynamat on rusty floors, you're an idiot. Because it's going to rust out in 5 years, 10 years, and your $30,000 car is going to be a junkyard car. And I've seen it so many times, and it's heartbreaking. Because people put their blood, sweat, and tears into worrying about the exterior of the car and then neglect the frame. It's a pretty car, and then they neglect the frame. So then it rusts out, and all this paint, beautiful paint job would have went to waste if I did not take this out. I spent over 8 grand repainting this entire car. This is Glazerite paint, okay? It would have all been to waste if you don't take care of the frame. These are unibody cars. If you leave rust on them and they rust out, the car is trash. It's not like a Bel Air. It's not like full frame vehicles from the 40s and the 50s where if you got a rusty floor pan, it doesn't really matter because you can weld in a patch. If you let the unibody decay, especially on these Mercedes from the 80s and 70s, if you let them decay to a point where you need a new floor, you might as well junk the car. unless you have another parts car, which I had. This is not the original floor in the car. This is from a 300D, 1975 Mercedes. This is a 1974 Mercedes. And it's a gorgeous car. I put new badge in the front. I'm taking off the headlights because I have European headlights I'm putting on them. I have European bumpers I'm putting on it. This is going to be a really nice ride, and it is a 4-door, even though they made coupes. I actually like the 4 doors. They don't look that bad. That's all I wanted to rant about today. Don't use Dynamat. Don't buy cars with Dynamat, and don't use Dynamat unless you're prepared to do the work beforehand to make it right. And if you bring it to a body shop, chances are they're not going to do it right because they can't be bothered. They can't be bothered to sandblast interiors, to epoxy prime interiors. Most of your body shops out there are just not going to do that. They're just gonna put, if you tell them to put Dynamat flooring down, they're gonna put it over bare metal. Because why would they waste time sandblasting and painting interiors? I'm telling you, unless you're doing it yourself, don't pay somebody else to put Dynamat flooring down. And don't buy a car that has Dynamat flooring if you don't know the history of it. There's a lot of people out there who have been screwed, including me, many times. I've probably lost over 30 grand from bad deals over the last 5 years because of Dynamat. So beware of Dynamat. Don't use it. Don't get it. Might as well use spray-on liner. It's the way of the future. Thanks for watching.